Hey, you need some R&R. You need some R&R. You need some R&R. You need some R&R.
Radio, RaNdOmNeSs, RaNdOmNeSs. Okay, it says we're recording.
We're live.
No, we are live with our...
Mark, do you want to introduce our guest?
Yes, I do. I guess this technically our second guest now.
I'm honored.
Thank you for being on.
Mr. Jeremy Marek, lead singer of the Lumbergs, guys. Is here to join us.
Wow. It's been a trip, man.
It's been a trip.
I apologize. My guitar is still packed away.
That's cool.
You probably still see the boxes in the room. We moved just before the whole COVID thing took off. So thankful that kind of happened then. But man, you know how the moving process is. It's never-ending.
Yeah, we moved during COVID. We moved in July. So yeah, that was a process in itself too. Moving sucks. So
yeah. And it's not just the packing and unpacking, it's the transactional stuff. You're trying to keep your life in balance, you're working or maybe you get time off, but then it's do I want to do this now? I got the bed out there, we got everything delivered, but do I want to unpack everything? And it just, it takes time. But,
we were kind of forced to, we took off, both me and my wife took off a week so it gave us time to do the close, because it's especially when you're buying and selling a house at the same time, that's even adds to everything. So we, starting the day that we packed up the day before, then the next day we did sold the house that we're moving from, the closing for the purchase of the house we're moving to, and then that afternoon unload the house, and then we had a week to get everything situated before we went back to work. And it was a kind of a time frame for me because I work from home. So I had to get everything connected and set up, not to mention everything else and, with the kids and everything else. So we weren't even done by the time I had basic necessities by the time I went back to work. But yeah, it was a process. I think it took us almost a full month to get everything unpacked and back to a routine.
Wow.
It's a process.
Wow.
So hold on, I got to break in and say something. Look, we're all wearing black shirts. What's going on here?
I don't know. Maybe it's God's plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's funny. Great minds think alike, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. And it was totally unplanned too. I don't know.
Nothing about this was planned. Nothing.
So, Jeremy, you're our guest. Do you have any topics or anything that you want to discuss while you're on our hit show here?
Yeah. So, I you told me about your podcast, and I had a chance to actually go back and look at a few episodes, and I haven't got every episode down, from A to Z, but yeah, I've actually checked out. So it's pretty cool. It's kind of see how it is growing. It's kind of you got to start somewhere, and you work out the kinks and stuff. I gotta say though, you're going off on your microphone situation was quite hilarious. So.
I think that's definitely everyone's favorite video so far. Just Mark what do you make? My microphone. But it's definitely entertaining. That's for sure.
That's funny.
And I do see the inspiration too, the Joe Rogan inspiration. So, he kind of started with some, you got to get all the kinks worked out and get the things moved out to create the product.
Yeah. We love Joe.
It's definitely still a work in progress. I didn't really start getting into Joe Rogan until after we had started the show, but it was good going back and watching his stuff, and then just seeing that even he had issues.
How many podcasts does he have
now? Almost 1,600.
Yeah. And there's some that are missing also. There's like missing episode. There's episodes that no one can find now.
Oh, really?
They're probably like,
it's like a whole conspiracy.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be bootlegged. They're like out there, and someone's like, "Oh, I'll charge you, $20,000 if you want one episode."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So, hey, Mark, do you still have your working man's head?
No, I do not. I don't have any of my music equipment anymore. I started like selling. I sold the bigger stuff. God, like when I was still in Austin, and then I had stuff and I was still playing around with it up until getting married and having kids. And then I didn't have a place to put it anymore. When we didn't have a spare room. And then, I mean, I could have stored it, but to me, that's just a loss. If you're just gonna, pack it away and never use it, then you might as well get rid of it. So at the time I had,
That's true.
I had a friend of mine that knew somebody that was having a music program with the school, and they were looking for music equipment. And I said, "You want this?" It was just my smaller like practice amp at that time. Yeah. And then I had my regular bass, just the 4-string. I'd already sold the 5-string, and then my acoustic. And I asked if they could use that stuff, and they were like, "Absolutely." So I took it to the school and donated it to a music program, the 4-string and the amp and so I figured I'd rather do that than sell it. But I figured that, at least somebody could get some use out of it, and it's not just sitting in a closet somewhere. And I mean, all that stuff was easy enough to get that, like, I even talking to Matt, that's why I told Raven, because when she brought up, when she asked, can I listen to your stuff? And at first I was hesitant to, it was on YouTube.
I had to ask him a couple times before he actually was like, "Okay, here's the link."
And I was
I'd ask him for the link and he wouldn't say anything.
Oh yeah,
and
I was
then a few days
hesitant
later, he finally sent it to me.
To put it out there, I was like, man, that's like almost 20 years ago now, if you can believe it. Yeah, and I was like,
and we cut that album early too.
We did early on the first demo.
Early in our music career.
And well, you can tell. You can tell when you go back and listen to it. Yeah, go back and listen to it. When you go back and listen to it, you can tell. But then you listen to the homemade recording stuff that we did towards the end, and you can see how much we.
And even our live recordings.
Yeah,
our live recordings sounded better than the album, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. So Raven's the one that spurred this whole thing on. She kept, because I was always, when we were talking about music and stuff, I would bring up, all my days in the band, and she's like, what's your where's your stuff? And then I knew it was on YouTube, and I knew she would eventually find it, so I sent her the link because she was so persistent in it. And then that's what led to almost a little.
Well, then, and also after he started talking about it on the podcast, people were like, "What's the name of Mark's band? What's the name of Mark's band?" And I'm like, I gotta get it. I gotta get him to give it to me. So people are actually listening, like more than you think.
Yeah, people.
I went back and I went looking for, some of the bands that we used to play with back in the day, and I found a couple. Man, that was quite a time in Austin. It was different. It was a different.
It was a different feel back then. Yeah.
6th Street, that whole downtown feel was like, I would say probably 80% really around like live music, live events.
It local bands.
Local, yeah, it was different. It was a different feel, and it's not the same.
It's not. It's really not. I mean, last time it's been a couple of years since I was there, but even just at that time, you could tell how much it's changed. It's not the same, and it's getting so packed over there now too.
Yeah, and those venues that we used to play at, the back room. I mean, remember that we actually played the back room. That was something else.
Yeah, we headlined there.
Yeah, 6 of Clubs. What was it, Aces or something?
Giddy Up.
Giddy Up, yeah.
Giddy Up was like this country bar out on the outskirts of Austin, Raven. And when we first booked that gig, and Jeremy probably remembers this. I was like, we shouldn't play here, like, because we were like this alternative rock band, and it was like a country and western. I was like, they're gonna be throwing like beer bottles in us, stuff like. We shouldn't play there. And they loved us so much they asked us back. I think we went back there like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Because that was like they loved us so much they kept coming back. And then like the way Jeremy sings, they're like, oh, can you play this from, they would request songs that we knew, like from the Toadies or Pearl Jam. And they're like, oh, I can't believe you know this song. It's like, yeah, we were jamming the song, so we just played the song. It's like, and so that was probably that was towards the end, but that was one of our popular gigs. Was like the Giddy Up.
I know. Wow. And I really do to this day. I wish we had recordings from some of those other live venues that, you know, we played at.
Yeah.
Oh, I would love to see a video of you guys on stage. That would be amazing.
Well, there are a couple.
I have video of it somewhere. I'll have to dig them out, see if it's worth uploading, maybe on YouTube or something.
And Matt made a CD too. I remember that with some videos, or DVD rather.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then when I talked to you about asking to come on the show, and you mentioned Matt, that I did get in contact with Matt, and we've been chatting. He's in North Carolina now, and God, I forget what you said, something that made me think of Matt, but he was like, yeah, we should get together virtually. Nowadays we could get together virtually and play, but it was
they cut.
A Zoom band reunion. That'd be pretty cool.
Actually, you know what? There's a lot of bands that, like, you know, during the COVID and before, you know, we had a full lockdown, they would play virtually. Like, you would have the drummer, you would have the drum kit, you know, the singer, vocalist, guitarist, bassist, whatever, and pianist, if they had that, you know, they would come together and make the cut and then be live virtually with each little, you know, window of what they're playing. And then it sounded great. Like, it was good.
Yeah, with technology nowadays, it's a whole lot more possible. And even when we're all in the same place, if we had this type of technology 20 years ago, it could have been a whole different story with our recordings at that time.
Yeah, Raven probably didn't have to put up with the dial-up situations where you guys.
No, I didn't have a computer until I was like 13, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe. But before that, it was, I remember before the internet got like big like it is now, before like cell phones, like touch screens, it was way different. I remember that, but I never had to deal with dial up. I didn't have a car phone, obviously.
Yeah,
well, even the car phone thing was really in our younger years. It wasn't really, you know, well, it wasn't until later.
I knew people that had them in high school.
Yeah,
you know that
did.
big box car phone thing.
Yeah, it wasn't really that big of a thing though. I think it wasn't until like the flip phones and the bar phones came out in the late 90s and early 2000s when people really started carrying phones around.
Yeah,
I kind of still wish that they had pay phones because I always wanted to use one and I never got to.
They still have them some places.
You can still find them, yeah.
Probably like in New York or something.
I'm sure, yeah. Like college campuses use payphones.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because, you know, like you have runners and joggers and like there's a phone there. And typically you can dial like the operator and say, hey, I need help or something if they don't have their phone.
That makes sense. Huh. Yeah, the olden days.
Yeah. Question. So how did your podcast get to kind of form? Like where did y'all like both have the interest of, you know, like, hey, I want to make something. I want to make something happen. I want to discuss something.
Yeah.
I think Mark already had his channel kind of going, this channel. He had a couple things up, but I've been wanting to do a podcast for a few months before we even started this. And then one day he was just like, hey, you want to be on it? That's really it. I mean,
cool. Yeah.
I had done YouTube and stuff in the past, and then I had like stopped doing anything. And then when I started working from home, I got started working from home because of COVID, and then it just turned into a permanent thing. And as I was working from home, I started, you know, getting more creative on the side, and I wanted to start doing something. So I was like, well, maybe I'll get back on YouTube, but I wanted to do something different than I was doing like vlogs and stuff before. And I want to do something different this time. So I kind of played around with different stuff, and it was kind of centered around music and old records and CDs and stuff like that. But it couldn't really get the kind of layout right. And I definitely needed help. And me and Raven had worked together in the past. I knew she was a creative type person, and I knew she was interested in podcast. So I mentioned it to her, or I kind of eased into it. I was like, hey, check out my stuff. Let me know your feedback, whatever. And then I said, I need some help. So I'm thinking about like a guest or a co-host.
Yeah.
And when I said co-host, that's that's how I snagged it.
Apparently he was throwing out signs, subtle hints all along that he wanted me to be on it, but I didn't know. And then one day I was just like, hey, you want me to be on your thing? Sure.
Yeah.
And that was that. I think once we started doing it in person, Mark kind of got a little looser, but yeah, it's just like it's really fun to do, I think.
I think it drives a purpose too. I'm sure you look forward to it the weekend. Sunday, I guess,
definitely.
And then you kind of have that like whole build up till the end of the week, and you're like, okay, I'm finally here. And then the next week you think about new things that you kind of want to, talk about.
Yeah, it definitely makes you pay attention more to what's happening like in the outside world. Because I was the kind of person, I didn't really watch the news or care, but now I kind of pay a little bit more attention just so I have something to talk about that's relevant to everyone else,
To be informed, to make your own decision.
Yeah.
So now we used to have kind of like topics and stuff, but we just kind of play it by ear from week to week, because what we noticed was if we had a topic and kind of centered around that throughout the week, which was good to prepare and stuff, but then other stuff was happening out in the world where it's like you can't just like not talk about that. And so it's just easier in some ways to like see what happens throughout the week and talk about it at the end of the week, but then we still talk about artists or different things. And what I've noticed is since actually I was going to tell you this, Raven, since we recently, I already had SoundCloud, but I started putting our stuff on SoundCloud too, and I even put the old band stuff is on SoundCloud now, by the way.
Cool.
But so I post a podcast there too, just as another avenue for people to hear us. And like I'm getting good job. Don't play it yet. All right, Melody. And Melody always makes an appearance.
Mine's asleep.
Well, Melody's she's an early riser for sure. But bands have been like reaching out or following our SoundCloud page now. Like even this morning, I had somebody Orlando band that followed us and reached out that maybe we'll work something out to where they can come on the show. So it's interesting the connections that I've made, or we're making now, that we're starting to have people on, and it really can be anybody, but musicians, any kind of artist.
We just like having interesting conversations, That's
because we can always, Raven and I have no problems talking to each other all the time, at length. Some of the episodes are like 2 hours, but just having other people on for a different kind of perspective and viewpoint, or maybe different things that they want to talk about.
Brings up different avenues. It's kind of like spur of the moment type things, or like I guess kind of an organic growth of like a tree. You spread out and you have different topics of interest, and then you go, all of a sudden you switch gears and go to something else. But I think that's what makes things interesting, because I don't know about you all, but like for me, like I have a hard time sometimes sitting through a movie. Like
Definitely.
I know my daughter gets this from me. I jump from one thing to another thing, and I sit there and focus for one thing for maybe, I don't know, 20 minutes, and then I'll like pull up another browser window and start reading about something else and go down this whole rabbit hole of just investigating and looking and researching. And then all of a sudden I want to do something.
Yeah, that's
I'm kind of
definitely how I
a
am.
little hoppy like that.
I do that. And there's different triggers for me on it. Like this week, it's been Van Halen. It's just been all this Van Halen stuff since Eddie passed, which that
R.I.P.
celebrity deaths are weird for me. And usually they don't like affect me, but like Eddie Van Halen is just like, it hits me hard.
Okay, but do you think that Van Halen really is underrated though? That's something I was gonna bring up. Because the other day you tweeted, "Oh, Van Halen is so underrated."
No, not just that one. It's that album. It's confusing because that was a self-titled album, but I'm talking about the album.
Oh.
That one album is like, it was like their most unpopular one. They were on the third lead singer and stuff. And so all this week I've been like just going down this rabbit hole, reading all these different stories, and some of it's like hearsay about what happened between them and different singers and their bass player at some point and all that. And then I've just been listening to all their stuff, just nonstop. And because I grew up, Van Halen didn't come out until 72, and I wasn't born until 79. But I remember enough that by the time I was like 4 or 5, when 1984 came out, my brother was a huge Van Halen fan. And so, I remember when that album came out and listening from there, and then going back listening to their other stuff, and then just following through the 90s and, up until their last album came out in 2012, that it just, Van Halen just had that impact on me, and there's no replacing Eddie Van Halen. And it really didn't matter who was singing for him, because it's that signature guitar sound that made Van Halen what it was. But that album, it's called Van Halen 3. It came out in 2000. I don't remember. No, 98, I think. And it was just a critical failure and didn't sell very many copies. But when I've gone back and listened to it, while I've been listening to all their stuff, it's like, that was just, to me, it was underrated. It's really not that bad.
And Van Halen is one of those bands that, like, no matter what genre that someone grew up with or what they like or what they listen to, everyone knows who Van Halen is. Eddie Van Halen. I mean,
very true.
Like you said, people may not know that they went through different members or different singers and frontmen and all that kind of thing, but you say Van Halen, everybody's like, oh yeah, I've heard that band. I know who they are.
Yeah, and that's what made me think of even me when you said going down a rabbit hole. I've been going down this Van Halen rabbit hole because when they came out with that last album in 2012, and there was even a break between that one and the one that came out in like 98 or whatever, that there was, once bands stopped coming out with new music, you just kind of not forget about them, but I mean, you never forget about Van Halen, but you kind of stop keeping up with what's going on, unless you're like this Stan fan, which I, at that point just wasn't with Van Halen anymore. So now it's like I'm learning all this stuff that I, never knew. The only thing that I can't really get a kind of answer on is why Michael Anthony left the band, or according to him, he didn't leave. He was kind of like phased out. But I don't know why. He's such a good bass player, and his backing vocals is part of what made Van Halen a signature sound, was his backing vocals. So I don't know why they phased him out, but Van Halen was Eddie Van Halen basically, and his brother, the drummer, and obviously his brother's going to go wherever Eddie goes. That's just what brothers do. So, but yeah.
Is there any other like music groups that you think are iconic like that? Like either one of you?
Pearl Jam.
Yeah, I mean, so the whole 90s movement, you have, so for example, Chris Cornell, when he passed away, that was a big impact for me, and kind of like, hey, this is a person that I looked up to when I was a kid, childhood, coming of age, you have these typical, frontmen, or you have musicians that you really look up to, and you like their playing style, or you like what they say, and you kind of relate to them.
Yeah.
he passed, it was kind of it really hit home for me, you know?
Yeah.
And I say that really with a lot of different, you know, recent individuals that passed it, but, you know, for different reasons, but his for some reason, and then his daughter, you know, like beautiful daughter that she sang and kind of in remembrance of him. And that just like, that was one of those things that's kind of really, really hit my heart. Twins.
Yeah. It's amazing when certain celebrities kind of make that impression. Like and it's for me, it's different. Like for some reason, Paul Walker is one of those people. Like some celebrities, that when they pass, it's just like, oh, it's a shame. And then some, it's just, but it doesn't like kind of hit me a certain way. But like some do, like Eddie Van Halen. I just really feel like the loss of it. And, you know, I was talking to my sister about it last night. It's like, well, you know, when certain ones make such an impression, especially for that length of time, from when I was a kid to, you know, I've never stopped listening to Eddie Van Halen. I stopped keeping up with the stories or what was going on with them or the hearsay, but I never stopped listening to them.
Behind the music.
Yeah, and it's like it's
Van Halen.
So, you know, just for, you're talking about 40 years that I've just known about Eddie Van Halen, so it's like it's a loss. And it's weird. It's kind of amazing to me when, you know, any kind of celebrity can do that, because I had a friend of mine that just severely, it took him months to get over Kobe Bryant, like months.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of people like that, because
he's like, and I mean, at first I was just kind of like, okay, I mean, he was a celebrity, I mean, one of the greatest basketball players ever, but he's like, you don't like what he meant to him growing up, watching Kobe come up from nothing, you know, from the start. He's like, I just never did not watch Kobe Bryant play, and his whole career with the Lakers and everything else like that. And then even in retirement, keeping up with him in retirement, stuff like that. And it's just his sudden and tragic loss. He's like, it just affected him so much. It took him months.
It was definitely an unbelievable death. And when I hear like so-and-so died, I always go to Twitter first, because they'll be able to confirm pretty quickly, you know, but it was super sad. And then, you know, his daughter died too. So it was kind of like a double whammy, and you just feel bad for like his wife, because now everyone is like talking about it, and I'm sure they bring it up. Like his wife and his oldest daughter had to block like the fan accounts on Instagram, because they just kept posting stuff and it was making them so sad.
Yeah, it almost seems like in that situation that they would just, you know, kind of remove themselves from all forms of social media for some time, because so many things, you know, bring up memories, and you get reminded of other people's, you know, how they impacted them, and then all of a sudden you start thinking internally, well, how's it impacting me or them, you know, just one of those things that you got to get off.
Yeah.
But anyway, Raven, back to your question, like other influential acts, and you know, like Prince, for example. I mean, you know, the guy has so many, you know, hit songs, and even things that he hasn't written or he hasn't, you know, had an album on, he's contributed to as well. So he's had, you know, a very big, I think, influence with a lot of, you know, singers today.
Definitely.
You know, I mean, his guitar, he's a great guitarist. I mean, I would say probably one of the best guitarists out there, you know. You know, there's a lot of good guitarists depending on your genre and stuff, but he is, in my mind, way up there. You know, and it's, what about you, Raven? Like, what's some of your influences?
I don't really have any. Besides Kanye, I listen to a lot of Kanye, and I can see like in that community how he influenced a lot of the newer rappers or whatever. But I'm getting really into Stevie Ray Vaughan. I don't know if you know who that is.
Let's see.
But
I don't know, from Texas?
It's of course because of Joe, because he kept talking about Stevie Ray Vaughan's Voodoo Child cover.
Yeah.
And so I listened to that like multiple times a day. It's so good. And I listened to the Jimi Hendrix version first, just to like make sure that
set your baseline.
Yeah.
But I honestly like Stevie Ray Vaughan's version better.
Yeah.
And it's so long. It's just like it. My friend was listening to it, and he said it reminds him of what America feels like. Like it makes him feel American. And I'm like, yeah.
That's a good one.
But yeah, I don't really have like that many music influences. I know when Michael Jackson died, that was definitely like a moment for me. I mean, I was like 11, but I was sad because I wanted to see him in person. You know, I was just getting into it, and it didn't really happen. Besides that, I like Billy Joel.
Really?
Yeah, my mom used to listen to a lot of Billy Joel and like Luther Vandross, all that. I'm more on that side of
kind of the. I mean, they were like kind of what do they call you, the top 40 hits back in the 80s, I think.
Yeah.
Would you say that, Mark?
Yeah. And I have to say that I've been honestly, and I told Raven this also too. Like I was very pleasantly surprised in kind of her musical taste, and because when we first kind of restarted the whole show and started doing it the way we were. I was asked her, what kind of music do you listen to other than Kanye? Because I already knew her from before, so I knew she was a super Kanye fan. And she's like, oh, I listen to a little bit of everything, all kinds of stuff. And I was like, okay, cool, because we'll, obviously talk about all kinds of different music. And but in my mind, I'm like, I hear people say that sometimes, but they really kind of don't. To them, that means something different. Like they really aren't open to everything.
Yeah.
But so far there hasn't been anything that I've ever like mentioned to her that she didn't know about, or something that I mentioned to her that she already didn't know that she listened to already and likes already. Like, just as you can see, like her mentioning Stevie Ray Vaughan, or even knowing who Van Halen is. Some people don't, at least in her generation, aren't very familiar with Eddie Van Halen, or it's just a classic rock, something you hear on classic rock radio now. But yeah, it's her musical taste is very, very wide. And that was one of the other things too, is that why I wanted her as a co-host is she has a different taste that opens me up to other stuff. But which leads me into a question for you, Jeremy. If you had to choose sides, would you be pro Cardi B and WAP, or pro U2 free music on your iPhone?
So I'll tell you something. This whole like Cardi B WAP thing, I didn't know what it was until probably maybe a week ago. I mean, really? I've heard like the term WAP. I mean, there's a lot of different, different things, but I didn't know it meant what it meant in her context of the song.
Oh my gosh. Have you heard this song now?
Yes, I have. Most of it, I think. I've heard the whole song. And I actually heard the radio edit version the other day too, so.
See, honestly, I probably wouldn't have known if I wasn't on Twitter. I'm on Twitter, and you and I had this discussion about Facebook. I'm never on Facebook anymore. Twitter's a whole different style, and I like that a whole lot better. But and obviously if you're doing something kind of you're trying to put out creatively, you need to have some sort of avenue, and Twitter's a good place to like promote podcasts or whatever, and just learn what's going on in this whole other world. And so I was just following all kinds of different musical styles, and you can kind of follow like themes or whatever. So I was just following all kinds of musical styles, and you get like tweets here and there from people, so you can see what's kind of going on in music. And I was like, so I don't follow Cardi B or anything, but there's a lot of chatter out there about her dropping this song. And then the day that I guess it dropped, everybody was going crazy about it. I'm like, okay, what the hell's WAP supposed to be? So I like
my mom
put it on and listen to it, and like within the first few lyrics, I was like, oh my God.
My mom literally asked me, we were in the pool, and she's like, Raven, what does WAP mean? And I'm just like,
yeah. I know I can see it, and like I can't say that there wasn't music like that, when I was a younger age that was probably inappropriate, but I was all into it and all that stuff. So it's like, that's just music, and that's always going to be music.
Yeah.
but now being where I'm at, you know, a older person with a especially with a daughter in that song, I was like, that was a whole nother aspect for me that was like, this is completely inappropriate.
Yeah.
Attack of the dads. Attack of the dads.
That's true. That's true. It doesn't really matter how old you are. I think it's once you kind of have a kid, you know, and you have a family, I think that kind of changes the dynamic a bit.
Yeah. But I don't know if you caught, because you said you hadn't caught everything, but there was an episode in there where we got in a discussion because
Mark's argument was that she shouldn't even be able to make a song like that, and it shouldn't be on the radio. And I'm like, well, you can't censor everyone, and there's people who want to hear stuff like that.
And that not necessarily was my argument.
Cardi B is not does stuff like that. She's just the one that gets the most attention because she goes wild. It is what it is. If I go to the club, I want to hear WAP, not freaking Naked Man on the front of an album cover.
You should listen to that album though. It wasn't that bad. That U2 album.
I think there's a few of those, you know, kind of in our younger years. And when I say that, I mean, I think you typically count your probably late teens to early 20s as like your formative years, that they say.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a few. I mean, probably even before you were.
I remember being kids in when OPP came out. Yeah. Naughty by Nature.
What's OPP?
Huh?
What's OPP?
Oh, look it up, Raven.
I will.
But Naughty by Nature was the group, and OPP comes out, and it was a rap song. And I remember, and they played that on the radio and stuff, edited or whatever. But I remember my parents being like, "You're not gonna listen to that." But I was like, I mean, you just found a way to listen to it as a kid, and that's what's relevant to you as a kid. And I love that song, and I didn't quite. Now, as being older, you kind of like your viewpoints, and when you re-listen to songs, it's like it means a whole different thing to you now than it does as a kid. But
you still have your guilty pleasures, I'm sure.
Yeah. You know what a guilty pleasure of is mine musically is Limp Bizkit.
Oh yeah, you know
everybody loves to hate Fred Durst, but I love Limp Bizkit.
And I think a lot of it's a novelty. A lot of it is the nostalgia. You know, like there's things I'll listen to that I didn't really probably listen to a lot, but it was on the radio a lot back then. Like in the, you know, we were in college and stuff. And like now I'll listen to it and I'll listen to it again and again. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll get into it again. You know, like yeah, Limp Bizkit is one of them. I mean, Korn, but Korn I thought was a lot better than Limp Bizkit in my opinion.
And some of those bands are like either still around or coming back. Like Blink-182 came back. Limp Bizkit came back.
I mean, look at Green Day; they're still around. You know, I don't think they've really lessened up at all. They're rolling steam going forward.
Yeah. So, and that's kind of was my argument to Raven with like Cardi B and a song like WAP and stuff. It's like, is that gonna give you longevity in your career, or if your 15 minutes goes up, is that what you're gonna be remembered by or whatever? That's just kind of my argument.
And then we brought up Lady Gaga in her meat dress and how she used to be wild, and now she has like some kind of award for her singing for that movie, the Shallows movie. Is that what it's called? Oh no, it's called A Star Is Born.
A Star. How fitting.
Yeah. I didn't think that Lady Gaga was going to be around as long as she's been, and now I listen to her and I can appreciate her music a whole lot differently. I'm not a whole lot into her earlier stuff. Because to me, I lose a little bit of, I don't want to say respect, but it's hard for me to kind of listen to your music if you have a whole kind of visual gimmick too. Like, and that's why I never got into like Kiss really. Like now I'll listen to Kiss because it's classic and novelty or whatever. But at the time, it's like, you're just dressing up in makeup and stuff like that. It's like what's your end game? To be known for, you know, this flashy gimmick or your music?
Both.
Speaking of gimmicks and you know, that kind of thing, Mark, I don't know if you remember, but do you remember when we were in the band, there was one person that said that we should come up with a gimmick and wear sunglasses. Do you remember that?
Yes.
That was early in our career too. That was like, we're like, I don't know if we're gonna do that.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a lot of, I guess, tips or advice like that back in the day. And you know what's funny is there's still people around like that because people tell me and Raven, oh, y'all should do this or do a show like this, or like it's like, okay, if you want that, then you do it. That's kind of not what we're about.
Yeah.
So it's funny when you create something and people, I get it too. Like, you know, there's what people want to see or some advice, but then there's just
like we said, we're definitely open to feedback always. Like, don't not tell us stuff, but then also don't be mad if we don't do it. It's just simple.
Take the opinion. I mean, feedback is always a gift. You know, if the opinion works out, then they'll take it. But if not, then I don't think anyone should feel bad about it.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with overall, because in the end, if you're putting something out there in the world creatively, you know, are you doing it to get followers and likes and all that stuff, or are you doing it for yourself and to put something out there? And that's kind of where I'm at. And like, I think we're still at that stage where we can see when people are like following us or we lose a follower or something and we lost a subscriber. And I was like, I'm pretty sure it's because of we'll talk about the debates and stuff, and it might be somebody that doesn't agree with us politically or something. And that's okay, because if you're gonna not listen to us or whatever because you don't agree with us, then don't subscribe. That's fine. It's like, but I don't want to. We had the decision where we could like either not talk about politics and talk about the election, and to avoid that kind of, you know, losing or gaining followers, or you can talk about it. For me, it's just too relevant not to kind of just ignore. It's like, how do you talk about it?
Matters,
So it's been interesting though, and we're definitely, I think we've grown a lot, creative wise and show wise.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, you know, you want things to not be forced. You want things to kind of be organic in nature and kind of just take its own avenue on.
Oh my gosh.
You know, where your wow, your thing flipped off. You know, we're like, you kind of want it to take its own path, not force it to where you think it should be.
Yeah. So definitely. Were you still playing around on your guitar before you moved?
I was here and there. I mean, I still have my acoustic. I still have all my electrics. I did sell my half stack, unfortunately, on Marshall. Just one of those things. It was a big, heavy piece of equipment that I'm not really using. You can't really use in a house, you know. And I don't want to crank it up to 11 and you know, just disturb neighbors. But yeah, I got rid of that, unfortunately, a few years ago. But yeah, I still play here and there. Probably not in the last, I don't know, 7 or 8 months, really. But you know, I'll pick it up.
That's more recent than me.
Build my calluses up again, you know.
Yeah, it's more recent than me, or even Matt. I know Matt said he didn't have a drum set.
Yeah.
But I was like, when we talked about it a little bit, I said I could easily just go pick up a kind of a used amp and bass at a pawn shop somewhere.
Oh yeah.
And pick it back up. I would have to listen to our old stuff and relearn it, but I always learn by ear anyway.
Reunion.
Raven's all for it.
She asked me in one of our, you know, discussions on what it would take to get the band back together and record new stuff or re-record the old stuff. I was like, I don't know. We'll see if there starts turning a demand for it. we'll see.
Mark said 100,000 retweets and we'll start back up the band.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd have to get with Matt and Jeremy to see how many retweets we would need and what kind of demand. And then
I wouldn't mind remastering some of our old stuff. I really wouldn't.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I haven't really. I mean, I maybe wrote a couple things after we disbanded. I haven't really been serious on the writing lately, but I mean, there's a few things in my mind. I play around here and there. I kind of, you know, I'll pick it up and like think of a song that we used to play and then kind of like change it up a little bit, you know. Or I'll pick up a song that I've heard on the radio or that I've, you know, really enjoy and kind of tinker around with it. But
Okay.
Nothing serious. Not in a while.
Yeah. Here. I need to.
I think you should definitely do something again, you guys, because you are very talented, and I liked listening to it.
She. When I sent her the link, I was like, okay, here it is. Only because I know you're gonna get to the point where you're not gonna let it go. So here's the link, and I sent it to her, and I was like, but we weren't that good. We were amateurs, all right, so don't judge us too harshly or whatever. And she texted me back. She's like, what are you talking about? This is good. I was like, and she said something else after that. I was like, this feels like a trap. Like, what did you set me up for?
He didn't think I was pranking him. I don't know why. I feel like if you're making music and you're playing like in venues and stuff, you should know that you're good. If you're good enough to get on stage.
I knew we were good. I had confidence in us after a while. Like our first couple shows were rough.
We just
but as we kind of started growing into it, I don't think we're half bad. We weren't terrible.
Yeah.
And we did develop a small following toward the end.
Surprisingly, we had kind of
we had people that, because by the time we I guess officially went on hiatus, we had been playing on and off for 5 years or so. So quite a while. Yeah. And there were people that when they would ask, at least ask me, and I said, no, we don't play anymore. We, I never said like, oh, we broke up, but it's like, we just, Matt was in medical school, and we just had other stuff going on that the band, it was hard to keep that going. And so we never really broke up. There was never any kind of.
That's true. It was one of those things where, when you say hiatus, it wasn't like we just disbanded and said, okay, we're done. It was one of those things where everyone had things going on. Mark, you got shipped off. Matt was in medical school. But then when we came back and there was breaks, we would just pick up and play where we left off. That's how we functioned, how it worked for us.
And when people were like, oh, we weren't writing or playing songs ananymore, they're like, what? No, they were disappointed. And I remember being so like surprised. I was like, really? You were like into us like that? Man, that's. And it did get kind of confusing when we changed the name, because people just knew us as the Lumbergs. But we developed somewhat of a small following around, especially around Austin, because Office Space was so popular at the time. And like when people would find out I was in a band, like at work or whatever, or in school, and I would say, oh, what's the name of your band? It's like, we're the Lumbergs. They would either get it, or they were like, I don't, what's the Lumbergs? It's like, you either get it from the movie Office Space or you don't. But that helped in our following too.
That's true.
But I miss it. I miss it all the time, playing music. I mean, I'll listen to like even new stuff when I'm driving around or whatever, and I always find myself listening to the bass line of songs, or especially songs that we would cover back in the day. Like I would always listen to bass lines and like man, I just miss that creative outlet. And just some days it was just, we were just, one of us would have just like a shitty ass day, and it's like, get off of work, it's like, we're meeting, I need to jam out, like
we just get together and just where are my bros?
And that's one of my regrets, is I wish we had cut an album later on in our career of being musicians. More of a professional recording. And that's something that, because we've had some really good shows, in my opinion, especially at the middle, the latter half, when we were just like, we were practicing 3 times a week, 4 times a week, showing on the weekend, and then grinding again the next day or the next week. And then just, we got to a good, I think, collaboration zone where we felt very positive as a band. We felt like we were actually meshing, like, in my opinion, 100+%. I mean, we were just right there together. We were able to like work on cue. We had the you could just read each other and like just we definitely got to that point. Like when I hadn't listened to it honestly in like years. It was just in CDs and stuff like that on the shelf, and I knew I had posted it, put all the songs together, all our original stuff, put that all on YouTube and in one big video. I think it's like an hour long, just to
kind of store it somewhere in case anything ever happened to like my CDs or whatever. And but other than that, I just kind of forgot about it and kind of put it on the shelf, so to speak. And then until Raven's like, where's your stuff? And I want to listen to it. And kind of like, I even texted her when I got in touch with Matt. I was like, you've got me contacted with Matt now, and I haven't talked to him in years. So she's like responsible for us to getting back in contact and just visiting and like, yeah, maybe dreaming about doing something new again, but none of that would ever happen if she didn't like, where's your stuff? I gotta listen to your stuff. But it made me go back and listen to it. And then one night, you know, when I was driving, I put it on in my car stereo and listened to it, like from beginning to end, all our newer or older stuff when we first recorded that EP, which we did a lot of stuff fast paced when we were first started. Like you can tell how kind of green we were. Yeah. Like from when we started playing our first shows, we kind of weren't there yet, but we were already playing shows. And then when we recorded our demo, we weren't even kind of quite there yet.
Almost like one of those fake it till you make it. I mean, we wanted.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were doing.
We jumped in head first, rather, and just went out there. We weren't ready. I mean, we were amateurs. We were just, we played around and dinked around with our instruments, but we weren't really ready as a band, in my opinion, at the time. But we took the chance.
We got there because the older stuff, like especially Lonely Trip, I listened to Lonely Trip. I was like, that is a really good song. It's sad that that's not the best recording of it, but at least it's recorded. But I listened to it. It's like that would even be good now because it's that style. That's just a really good song. You could tell how good we got as a band, how mature you got as a songwriter, and it was I was like, man, I would, if I had to pick one song, I'd want to re-record that song. That was a song towards the end when we started playing the last shows, we'd end with that show and people would be just going nuts. Like, don't stop playing. Like, cause it was so upbeat and like kind of punk poppy type sound that people were like, we'd end with that song and people were like,
it was very catchy for sure. Yeah.
So
I remember a few shows where I think the other bands didn't show up. You remember those?
Yeah.
And they would say, keep playing.
They'd say, keep playing.
Something.
Like we would play with covers. We just extend songs. We had some songs that we could just kind of go off on, freestyle on.
That's true. We did do a lot of freestyling. That was, and we had so many covers in our pocket as well. Like we just, because we played so much together, we practiced so much as a band, we had so much stuff in our pocket at the time to pull out and play and just on impromptu play.
Yeah, it was back in the day.
That's really cool. It must be so cool to be part of a band. You guys were probably the coolest in the crowd.
No.
I don't know about you, Mark, but I mean, those days went by so fast. I mean, you think about it, it's like, man, we've done a lot in that really, I mean, a short period of 5 years. We felt like it was like 10 years.
That's time in general. Time just flies by so quick.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe 2020 is already over.
I know.
It's just been such a crazy.
2020 was like a blink, like, because most of the time we couldn't really do stuff, so it just went by. Like, honestly, I feel like it's still like April, but it's October.
Yeah.
You know, the summer almost didn't exist. That's how I feel.
Yeah. And it's weird because for kind of being stuck at home for so long, you would think time would just drag on, but it's just really just flown by.
Yeah.
So tell me about what is that R back there, Mark? Up at the top.
Oh, that's for it's the same thing as this. It's Raze Energy.
Okay.
It's from Rep Sports. They do supplements and energy stuff. And
Mark's an ambassador. He's a Raze ambassador.
They're looking for people to promote their stuff that put out content. So I mean, it's linked in our stuff with a promo code where you can get discounts to buy it. But I'm into them for I got a couple of their supplements, but I'm into it for their energy stuff. I need the energy. Like,
I'm I've tried to wean myself off of coffee a bit, but I find alternatives, and you know.
Yeah, tea doesn't do it for me. I've tried, but tea doesn't do it for me. Most mornings I at least need coffee, and it's a 2 cup of coffee every day. It's at minimum 2 cups. And then some days if I get probably less than like 6 hours of sleep, then I need to start with an energy drink, and then I go to coffee, and then wean myself down throughout the day. But I'm caffeine addict. Like I can't even fathom how I function without it. I mean, but worst case scenario, if that's my last choice, then I'll take tea, obviously, because it has caffeine, but it's too weak for me most times.
What about Raven? You a caffeine addict?
No, I don't drink coffee. I'm pretty much a water drinker. I normally just drink water. That's about it. I have a lot of natural energy.
Yes, definitely.
I just wake up like,
yeah. You know what? That means you're getting
alive.
proper sleep. You're sleeping well. You're getting your 8 hours of sleep a night.
Even when I don't, I still wake up with a lot of energy, because you got to put yourself in the headspace of energy. That's what I believe. So if I wake up, I'm working on a morning playlist that's just all songs that hype you up, like on your drive to work or whatever. And then I'm just, by the time I get to work, I'm good.
Getting your groove.
I may wake up like, but it only takes like 5 minutes for me to be like, alive.
You get there without caffeine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm jealous. I've always needed caffeine.
Well, there was like a brief period of time when I did drink coffee, but it just made me feel like I don't know how to describe it. Like lightning was going through my veins, and I was like, no, I'm okay. I like my regular energy.
Caffeine is one of those things I think that impact different people different ways. I think it's probably based on your DNA and type of chromosomes that you have, or not chromosomes, your DNA constructs. That's some people, like, you can get tests to see what type of stimulus impact you versus what they don't do to you, kind of thing. Like for me, caffeine, if I drink some sort of caffeine after, I don't know, 1 or 2 p.m., I'm up like till like midnight.
Really?
Yeah, it impacts me pretty heavily. Yeah.
But you've always been kind of that way, haven't you?
What's that?
Haven't you always been kind of that way?
Yeah, I've always been, very like, caffeine stimulates me very quickly, and for, I guess, the half-life is, I'd say, probably longer than maybe a lot of people for me. I'm sure there's other people like that too, but yeah, I have to be careful with caffeine.
Like me, I can drink a cup of coffee before bed.
Oh man.
And at worst, the most that's gonna happen is I'm gonna have to wake up in the middle of the night to go pee.
And that is why you can't sleep.
Yeah.
That is why.
Well, I'm not saying that I do that. I'm just saying I can.
Oh.
Generally, there's a certain part of the day that even if I want to keep drinking caffeine, I'll stop just and start drinking water to
kind of reset yourself a bit.
Reset himself?
Yeah.
I just like the way water makes me feel like because I sometimes I get really thirsty, and water's literally the only thing that makes me feel like I'm not like, But I've always been a water drinker. Like I have like huge bottles of water, and I just think soda is like okay every once in a while. Like even when I go to restaurants, I mainly drink water because that's just how I was raised,
Yeah. And you don't have to pay for the soda. It's cheap.
Right?
Yeah. And
it's free.
Yeah, free.
So the water in Tampa sometimes is a little sketchy.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. At least at like some restaurants. Like if you get closer to like downtown, I want to drink this because it's tap water, most of the time.
I thought a lot of restaurants, at least these days, put it through some sort of filtration system.
It tastes the same to me. I don't know. Maybe.
I don't get a whole different water tastes differently to me. And water is water to me for the most part. It's got to be really nasty, dirty water for it to taste different. Like my wife is one of these people that she doesn't like certain brands of water. She don't like the way it tastes. I was like, it's water. I agree. it's not flavored water, it's just water. How does it taste differently to you? But she's like, she only wants certain brand. Like she likes Walmart or Sam's Club brand water. She doesn't like Zephyr Hills or Dasani. Like she can't stand Dasani. I was like, it's just water. Like,
so this is the ranking. I'll start from the top. Zephyr Hills, Aquafina, what's that one called? It's like an Evian, Dasani. Dasani's trash. Actually, Evian is before Aquafina. So Zephyr Hills, Evian, Aquafina, Dasani, and then Smart Water can go in between Dasani and Aquafina. But Dasani's trash. It tastes like straight chemicals. Like, have you never drank Dasani water?
I've drank them all, and that's why like it all tastes the same to me. It's all just water.
I thought Dasani puts some sort of electrolytes or maybe salt or something in there, don't they?
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe. My friend was drinking Dasani the other day, and I just gave her the look of disgust. Like, Dasani?
Like are you one of those people, Raven, that it's so like my wife is so bad? Like what we do, well, we always have a case of water on hand, basically, even though our fridge does the filtered water thing. But it's certain times of the year when it gets like leading up to hurricane season and stuff, we'll start stocking up and we'll keep extra cases stocked up just in case. Because if a hurricane starts coming, we don't want to be like all the stores run out of water and we don't have water.
Yeah.
So we're not the people that rush out to buy toilet paper and all that crap. We keep ourselves prepared all year. So when something happens, we don't have to be one of these maniacs that are, punching people over toilet paper.
Yeah.
But so when like if it starts getting low, if a storm's like they're talking about the storms, heading their way or whatever, and you'll notice the store's getting low, and I'm just like, okay, I'm at the store, I'm gonna buy a case and make sure we stay stocked. So I'll buy Dasani or something like that. And I'll come home. She's like, why did you buy that? Take that back. I was like, it's literally the last case of water on the shelf. You'd rather us like if a hurricane does hit and we run out, you're not gonna drink it. Like if we absolutely have no water, you're still gonna refuse to drink Dasani? Like, really?
Here's one. I'm gonna throw it out there. What about Hill Country Fair?
Raven doesn't know that.
Raven knows no
What
idea.
you know about Hill Country Fair, Raven? It's HEB. Remember I told you about HEB?
Oh yeah. No. What's his name? My friend's son lives in Austin or like Texas somewhere, and they were talking about HEB, how it's like the best place ever, and I'm like, why all of a sudden is everyone talking about it?
Apparently they compare it to Publix in Florida in a way.
It's the grocery chain of Texas, and I think if they're outside of Texas, it's like barely on the state's borders somewhere. I think maybe Louisiana or somewhere.
I've heard that too. Yeah,
but they aren't anywhere but they were built and branded in Texas, and that's their thing, is their Texas store.
Yeah.
They've grown because they have HEB Plus that competes with Walmart, super centers, and there's what's the like organic type HEBs now?
Central Market.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah, I don't know. I've never been there. Maybe I'm gonna book a flight to go to a grocery store.
You should.
Yeah.
I came from.
I do want to go to Austin though. I really do. I want to check it out. Obviously not. But I heard Austin's not really that closed down. Do you still live in Austin?
Yeah, I'm in a metro area of Austin. Yeah, we're still technically not inside Austin city limits, but we're very close. Very close.
Okay. And is it like super closed down there, or?
Not really. I mean, so there's, of course, Texas entirely has a mask ordinance where if you're outside your house in a public building, you have to have, be masked, obviously. But it's not really closed down. I mean, there's a lot of traffic still. There's people that are getting back to normal routines at this point. Still a lot of people work from home. It's I'd say not as closed down maybe than some other states are.
Are you and your wife mostly working at home?
Yeah. I mean, we'll go out to the stores. We'll go, we've been to restaurants here and there. Obviously, restaurants are, you got to wear a mask when you go inside until you get to your table. When you sit down at your table, then you take your mask off. You get away from your table, you got to put your mask back on. you know, there's that situation going on still, obviously, but you know, there's, you know, we try to get out and get some fresh air at times.
Are you good with the having to wear a mask thing, or do you feel one of those people that like you're forced to do it and like
an anti-masker?
Well, I don't feel I wear it because of precautionary purposes, and because obviously here in Texas, our governor said that you must wear a mask in a public building, you know, until I think November, December, whenever it's, I forgot the date. But, you know, I don't, I'm one of those people that I like to be a little more precautious than not.
Yeah.
And I have the personal decision and what I can do. And I feel that, in my opinion, that it's going to, I'll be safer. Other people will be safer if I wear a mask.
Exactly.
There you go. See, everyone wants to make everything political, and it doesn't have to be like that, you know?
Right.
Like, it's just being considerate.
Exactly. Considerate. I mean, you're considerate to your neighbor, you're considerate to your fellow friend, your fellow person you may not even know, but you're still being considerate. You know? You don't want to, I don't want to be, I'm sure y'all don't, no one wants to be, I hope, that person that somehow inadvertently impacts that person's life, right?
Yeah.
You know?
You don't want to be the one that got everyone sick.
Right. And granted, you know, you may not, but if you take that precaution, just like wearing a seatbelt, you know,
Exactly.
Because you don't, I mean, yeah, you can get pulled over for not wearing a seatbelt and get a ticket, or you can take the chance and never wear a seatbelt and maybe you won't get pulled over. But thing is, what if, right? You want to be precautious, you wear the seatbelt, you don't want to get, if you get pulled over, you don't want that to be the reason why you get a ticket, or worse, or, you know, dead on the side of the road.
That's what it was like in Texas with motorcycles. Like for a long time, it was there was a helmet law in effect, and so many motorcyclists would like, just like the mask, like they didn't like being told that they had to wear a helmet, and like, they didn't want to wear a helmet. It's like, for me, I look at it the same way, just like a seatbelt. It should be something you should want to do anyway, just to protect yourself, let alone like, especially a seatbelt or a motorcycle helmet. It's not there for protection of other people. It's there for the protection of you. Especially like a motorcycle. You fall on a motorcycle, don't you want something to protect your head?
And I feel like seatbelts have gotten to the point now where it's kind of like you're not wearing it. You're not wearing it to show someone. You're just not wearing it because you didn't put it on as soon as you got in the car, or you just are lazy at the moment, you know? But I think it's important because, especially for me, like my friend's sister actually died because she didn't have her seatbelt on recently. So now I just think about, anytime my seatbelt's off, I just think about that. Even if I'm just driving down like a regular street and it like freaks me out, I'm like, oh, click it, simple, you know?
And Mark, you remember, I mean, what, about 20 years ago, a very close friend of ours passed away, died. He was not wearing a seatbelt, and that kind of impacted our lives early on, right out of high school.
Yeah. Wasn't wearing a seatbelt and he fell asleep at the wheel. Not good enough. Yeah, that one hit me hard. But yeah, I mean, just there's certain, I do see where people are at with kind of feeling forced to do it. But if it's there to protect yourself, I mean, it wouldn't have to be a law or a rule if you just did it to protect yourself anyway. They make these things rules and laws because, especially with a mask, because not only are you not protecting yourself, but you're literally endangering other people too. And I told Raven this too, like I saw in the brief time I went on Facebook to get a hold of Matt, which ironically he happened to be on Facebook and got my message, because he was like, when he texted me, he's like, I'm never on Facebook. It's so weird that you messaged me, because I was on there for something else and I got your message. I was like, yeah, I only went on there to message you. It was weird, but meant to be, I guess. But in that brief time, I feel like, you know, Bobby Bones, right? The radio guy.
Yeah.
He's on everywhere now. I talk about him a lot, Raven. Thinking
and he's from Austin.
Yeah, he's from Austin. And and I still listen to him. And he said at one point, going on Facebook to him is like when you have to go into a bad part of town to run an errand or something. You're like, you just want to kind of get in and get out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I am with Facebook. In the brief time I was on Facebook, there was, political posts and people posting. And one of them was a guy had posted a meme about how it was amazing that like the CDC and people could convince others that you could be a carrier of a virus and not show any symptoms. Like the whole idea of the meme was that's a lie, that if you don't have symptoms, you're not carrying the virus. It's like it's not just this virus that literally can happen with hundreds of viruses where you have it and you don't have symptoms, like, and you can transmit it without even realizing it. That's like, in what world is that made up science fact?
HIV is a perfect example. I mean, people don't have the symptoms, but yet they're transmitting it.
Yeah,
it's that of many, and it's nothing new.
Like they didn't just now come out with that. That's literally been around forever. It's just science that can carry something and transmit it without even realizing it.
Right, especially in the early stages. I mean, I think there's a period of time where your body hasn't really kicked in that immune response to start fighting whatever's going on, and you're still carrying it, and you just don't know it.
Yeah. I'm curious to know if part of me at least at some point especially thinks that like we probably already had it, because my wife,
I've never had it. I got the antibody test.
I think we maybe have, and just maybe I was asymptomatic or something, or had minor symptoms. I think at least my wife, because she's always taken the necessary precautions, but she has to leave the house for work because she works in the grocery business. So she's around people that are around other people, especially when everybody's going crazy for toilet paper for some reason. Like that, I'll never understand.
Still?
No, I'm talking about in the early stages. And you know what's funny is it was amazing to me in the vice presidential debate that even Harris brought up when people didn't have toilet paper. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. That was a thing. People were stocking up on toilet paper because of COVID for whatever reason.
But there was no toilet paper. There was no napkins, Clorox wipes, Lysol, any of that.
But all like the disinfectant stuff I get, hand sanitizer running out of that I get. But like the toilet paper, I don't. There were doctors that were like, I don't get the obsession with stocking up on toilet paper. I don't get it because it doesn't affect your squirts. But anyway, like she was around all that like mania, and so she was always taking the proper precautions. But I just think that at some point it could have been, and it was just evolving that, where they said it could be on your clothes, and then now they're saying how long it might live on your clothes, and all that stuff keeps changing. I was like, statistically, to me, I think at some point it was brought into our house, and maybe we're just, kept the house clean enough or whatever that we either had it asymptomatic or.
Yeah, we think the same. Like I was really sick, me and my daughter. My wife she was fine, but probably late January. And I went and got tested for the flu. I went to the doctor. They're like, oh, you just have like a respiratory infection and, some other thing. And here's some steroids and antibiotics or whatever, and go on your way. But I was sick for 2 weeks and flu-like symptoms. I mean, typical, I wouldn't say to the extreme where I couldn't breathe or anything like that, but it was, I was very, very well into it, like a flu feeling. And I think to this day, I probably was impacted with COVID.
Yeah, and that's the thing they say, like they told us about it in March, like that it was here in March or like the end of February, but realistically it was probably here Thanksgiving, Black Friday, all those times. Yeah. Because you are not the only person that had symptoms that were very similar. Personally, I have them at least twice back the end of last year, beginning of this year, before COVID was like announced, I mean, but I've never had it. Well, at least I don't have the antibodies. If you donate blood, they tell you if you've had it. So I donated blood a couple of weeks ago, and they said I've never had it. So
yeah,
that's a good way to find out.
Yeah,
curious.
yeah, it's been a little while since I've donated. I know used to at work and stuff, we would have donation trucks and things, but you know, obviously now we're not going in the office. But yeah, that's
The
a good
past
thing.
couple of times I tried to donate, they wouldn't let me.
Really?
Yeah, because I have too many tattoos.
Okay. I was gonna say you drink too much caffeine or something.
It used to be that, you know, if you had a tattoo, if you got a new tattoo within like 12 months or something, you couldn't donate. But
I've heard
then,
that.
but I don't know if I guess crossed some sort of line where I got
Yeah,
too many. But like, you know, and it's been years since
Mhm.
I've had a tattoo, but like it's like they look at me and they're like, no, we're good, thanks.
No. Aw.
Yeah, you know that's hopefully you're not getting profiled.
Yeah.
Sometimes I am, but I don't think mostly. No, not nowadays. It's become more normal.
More common,
Yeah.
definitely.
But I think it's just like a medical thing, and maybe as science and they get new information changes that.
Have you asked them? Like, have you know, what is their disposition or reason for?
No, no. I mean, to me, it's like, well, I tried,
Mm.
and that's all I can do. And I mean, at one point, I know, especially with plasma, even more.
Mm.
Like,
Oh yeah, yeah. My aunt donates plasma, and you can't have any bruises on your arm, or they won't let you donate. So she has to walk around like, "Don't touch me, don't touch me," because she bruises really easily. But they're very, very specific about like how your arms look and everything with plasma. Yeah. I asked her like how it feels, and she said when they take it out, because you know they take it out, they take the stuff out, and then they put your blood back in with like saline. She said it feels cold when they put it back in your arm, and I'm like,
oh, that's weird.
I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if I want to.
You get this cold rush like all through your whole body.
Yeah. No, I can't do it. I can't do that.
Yeah.
I don't like medical needles and feelings like that at all.
Mm-hmm.
As long as I don't look, like that was the creepy thing with when I donated blood. I could feel it because my one arm they couldn't get it in, so they had to do it on the other arm. And as soon as she got it in, I could feel like my blood going down my arm in the tube because it was warm, and I was like, I couldn't look.
Now, I wonder if that was like you looking at it and like visualizing what's happening. Versus...
No, I didn't look. I was this. I was like this because I knew if I looked, I would freak out. So I literally couldn't look. But when she put it in, I could feel the warmth of because it was like a tube, and I could feel it going down my arm.
Do you know your blood type, Jeremy?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
What's your blood type?
O positive.
I'm O
Same.
negative.
I'm O positive too.
I'm O negative, and I will always remember that because actually before I always remembered it because of the band Type O negative.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I was like this, but then now it's just ingrained in me because they put it on your dog tags when you're overseas. So it's like I always just stared at this. It literally says Type O negative. After that, I'll just never forget what blood type I am.
Yeah, yeah. The band, I guess, is a good kind of memorization.
Interesting band, Type O negative.
Type O negative.
Yeah.
Look them up.
I keep like reaching for my phone to make notes, but I took it out of the case.
Yeah. I was wondering what you were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look up Dave's Not Here too if you're.
Dave's
not here. That's a good one.
They're an Austin band back in the day.
I'll check them out.
I think, but yeah.
During when we first got quarantined, and I started working from home. What I was doing, I brought up my old laptop and started just listening to all my iTunes because I don't have really CDs anymore. I have a few, but I had long ago moved everything to my
transfer
my iTunes.
Digital.
And I started listening to everything from like starting with A. So I went through like ACD and stuff. And then it was interesting because I started getting into like bands from Austin that we, would either go see or had played with or whatever. Yeah, I had just completely forgot about like Free Bleeder, Chomsky. Do you remember Chomsky was a Dallas band, but they came to Austin a lot. Bob Schneider.
Yeah. What was it? What was the one that we used to play with a lot? Remember, we played with them at CT Peppers and some other places.
Oh, with old mashed potato.
Yeah, yeah.
What was his name? What was their name?
I think they went through a couple names or something.
You could look at.
Yeah.
They had a song, and I know they were on YouTube. And I don't remember their name, but I know that the lead singer left and they got like a newer lead singer, and then they got really good. But I think they broke up after that.
They were there for a while. I thought the same guy was the same guy.
No, he left or they kicked him out. I remember finding out about that back on MySpace.
Do
you remember MySpace, Raven? Was that around?
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to have one. I remember when I was in like the 8th grade, I spent the night at my friend's house and I like made one, but I just made it to make it. I literally never got on it.
Yeah, that was I think most people's first kind of foray into social media.
Yeah.
There's some other ones that kind of failed, like what Friendster, I think, was out there. I never got on.
I've heard of Friendster before.
It wasn't really until I think MySpace, and then of course
Facebook.
They kind of started tanking a bit, and then Facebook. Facebook's been there since the mid 2000s or so. It was more locked down for college addresses. You had to have an email address that was associated with one of the main colleges or universities at the time, and it was a little
that was at least 2007. Because I remember how I ended up getting on Facebook was I found out about it from a friend at work. I can't find it. It used to be the first thing that popped up if you on YouTube you would search for Saved by the Bell. And that song would pop up from that band because they even made like an amateur video, but now it's just a bunch of Saved by the Bell clips. But anyway, I found out about Facebook from a friend at work back in 2007 because that's when I was like going through the separation and divorce or whatever, and I wanted to get off of MySpace or try to stop getting on MySpace because of. There was some back and forth with the ex on and a friend's like, well, at the time I was still in school. I was going to Texas State. I was getting ready to graduate. And he's like, well, if you still have that .edu email address, he's like, go on Facebook because you have to have a .edu to sign up, and then you don't have to worry about your ex-wife getting on there because she doesn't have a school email address. And I was like, okay, so I did that. So and then right after that, within months, they opened it up to like everybody else. And like, well, there goes the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I made my Facebook when I was in the 8th grade, and I didn't I had to hide it from like my mom and everyone because they didn't want me to have one. So if you type in Raven Henry on Facebook, you can find my Facebook from when I was in middle school. Like it's still up there. I have a separate
OG Facebook.
Yeah,
my OG. Second one.
Well, yeah, because when I moved to Florida, my aunt made me make a new Facebook without any of my Ohio people.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of EDU and when you were at Texas State, which is now or was Southwest Texas, now Texas State, Mark. You remember we've kind of, I would say, disbanded at the time, but we remember you had a music class or something. And we went
I got extra credit for doing that anything music related or performance related, if you came in and did some sort of performance, you got extra credit. And the way that professor graded that class is really weird because you had to have like so many points by the end of the semester to like either have an A or a B or whatever. It's like, but you got at least 1 point for doing something.
Yeah.
Turning it in or whatever. And then the more you did, the higher point. So like literally, like I think I just racked up like 100 points and had my A and just showed up to class to watch other people the rest of the semester and did nothing. And that performance kind of got me over the top, which I wouldn't say performance, but yeah,
Yeah, it kind of was. It was almost like an unplugged performance. We were in this big
Yeah, we just did
auditorium,
2 songs because I think they had
people
because
around.
because you were like a guest because you didn't go to
Mhm.
school there. And they since it was my class, his rule was we had to do the songs that I at least had something to do with. So we did
Mhm.
LK and I can't remember the other one.
I can't either.
But I remember we took kind of like like 20 or so CDs of our little demo.
Mhm.
No more.
And like afterwards, I don't know if you were there or I think you had left and had to wait outside for the rest of the class. By the end of class, everybody
Oh,
just bum rushed me for all those CDs. Like, and then we got a little bit of a following from Texas State after that.
Mhm.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but then we fizzled out after that.
Yeah, and that was probably one of the last ones.
One of the last performances was at
Mhm.
your college.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, that
Well,
time that was
the
towards
last-
the end. That was before I went overseas.
I think it was after, wasn't it? I want to say this
No, it
was
was before.
2005 time frame, 2006, I mean, mid 2000s.
It was before because I did one semester at Texas State before I got activated, and that was that one semester because I remember I was living in an apartment with my sister on the not so good side of town,
Mhm.
and I
Which was
remember
totally different now if you've been
yeah
there lately. They've revitalized it. It's sad to see some of the history go away.
Austin's changed a lot. Last time I was there, it's changed a lot. Like I don't know if I ever went back to Texas, it wouldn't be Austin.
Mhm.
I'd probably if I had to move back to Texas, I'd probably choose somewhere like Columbus, somewhere in between Austin and Houston,
Mhm.
but not so crowded.
Yeah.
Does every state have a Columbus?
Oh, I'm
Probably.
sure. I'm sure.
Columbus, Ohio. Columbus, Texas. Wow.
Are you literally from Columbus?
Me?
Yeah. You're
No,
from Ohio, right?
Yeah, I'm from Springfield.
Oh yeah, the Simpsons State City.
Yeah.
That explains a lot.
What does that even mean?
I don't know.
I miss the Simpsons. That was a good. They had a good run.
It's over?
What?
Well, I haven't
Yeah.
watched.
Simpsons? Oh, you just don't watch it.
No.
I think
it's on
this is their
Disney.
last season.
Yeah, I haven't watched
Ever?
it. Gosh, a few years, maybe 5
They've been
years.
on forever. They started when in like
Yeah.
the 90s, late
Late
80s.
80s, I think. Yeah.
They've been on forever.
Well, Disney
It's
bought
crazy
them
how
and
much
now
stuff
they're
they've
dead.
predicted.
So who's surprised by that?
What?
Disney bought them and now they're being killed off. Who's surprised by that?
Disney's had them for a while.
Like 2 years. Not that long.
I think it has more to do with they've been around for like 40 years.
So they should have a big following.
They do, but all good things come to an end, Raven.
Yeah.
Can't blame Disney for that.
I think the train has made its way and left.
There's still stuff that comes out that they put in episodes like years ago that's like coming true, and it's like it's funny because people will be like, "Oh, the Simpsons predicted this." Like, really, they didn't. They just thought they were doing something so extreme. They thought this will never happen.
I know, right?
It's happening. That's the crazy thing.
Yeah, it's like Back to the
Like
Future
Family
Part
Guy
2.
better, anyways.
Family Guy's good.
Yeah,
I used to always watch all those shows on Sunday, but now it's hard for me to keep up and pay attention to all that stuff anymore.
Simpsons, I mean, they've had so many guests though. Like they've gone. I mean, that's the cool thing about the Simpsons culture is they brought in so many people as guest stars or co-hosts or like different. They'll be there for like one season, then they're out the next season or whatever. Mix it up. They made it so engaging and so like, what's going to happen next? Who's going to be on here? Who's going to make an appearance?
Yeah.
That was a captivating feature.
R.I.P. The Simpsons, I guess.
Yeah, sad, but I've kind of.
Oh, I did watch SNL, not last night's episode, but I watched some of last week,
Mhm.
and it was so funny. The cold
I saw-
open.
Yeah, I saw bits and pieces. I watched that one with Jim Carrey as Biden.
Oh yeah. I did see that.
That
I
was so. I
didn't
love
see anything
SNL.
else.
Like my goal is to be on SNL. That's like my ultimate goal. But so funny. I was like crying. I was laughing so hard
Yeah.
when they paused Trump, and he was just like,
Yeah. Yeah, that was good. And then they unpaused him, and he's like pausing back. He's like, "Nope, can't do it."
And all the mannerisms and the like way of saying things, they got down to T.
They did. Even the guy that was doing Chris, the moderator.
Oh,
what
yeah,
was
the
his name?
moderator. Yeah. Mhm.
Like he got his like whole the way he speaks and everything just to a T.
Yeah, I was impressed.
shocked that they got Jim Carrey to go on too.
Mm-hmm.
Because Jim Carrey only does stuff that he wants. He doesn't do any anything.
And the last
for
time I saw him
publicity.
is he had like long hair and a beard. It's like, did he cut all that off recently?
For that,
or?
no. The costume people at SNL are elite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but his beard was like massive. And there's no, now he's clean shaven when he played Biden, so there's no covering that up.
Oh yeah, maybe he did.
Yeah.
Mm.
I don't know. It could have been
Actors.
recently, or could have been just for that skit. But yeah, now he's at that level where he can pick and choose.
Well,
what he wants
because
to
he's
do.
going to be playing Biden until who knows how long.
Yeah.
Because they don't really switch it up that often. It's not like there's going to be a different person playing Biden next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had it down. It was both of them did. It was it was hilarious.
It was really good.
I don't think I can't remember, but I don't think that Jim Carrey was ever a cast member, though.
No, he was on Mad TV.
Mm-hmm.
That's where he got his start, was Mad TV, making fun of Vanilla Ice back in the 90s.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's what put him on the map, was when he made fun of Vanilla Ice. And then he had Fireman Jim or something was that other character he played. Like it was really good. Like I think he tried SNL, but they like wouldn't take him or whatever.
Yeah.
And Mad TV took him on Fox, and he's like the only white guy on the show. And then he just
Are you thinking of Mad TV? Or are you thinking of Living Color?
Living Color is what it is. Yeah, I'm getting confused. Confused. Good catch. Good catch.
But he may have been on Mad TV. I don't know.
No, it was Living Color. She's right. It's Living Color.
Yeah.
That's where he got his start. But yeah, I think he's guested on SNL a lot, but he was never a full-fledged cast member.
Alec Baldwin was, though, I think. Very briefly.
Was he?
I don't know if he was or if he's just hosted a lot, because like when I go back and watch old episodes or even older episodes, like he's on there.
He's hosted a lot for sure. He's up there with like I think Tom Hanks and some other people, where they're like the few people that have hosted 5 or 6 times. But then now, like especially once Trump got elected, he wasn't just he was just a guest spot, like a permanent guest spot, because like Trump.
Yeah. SNL's hilarious.
It's still like holding its own, which is amazing.
I know. And they've had a long run too. I mean, well, still are, but I mean, they've been around, geez, I don't know.
45 years.
50 years, yeah.
If Lorne Michaels ever retires, God knows what's going to happen to that show.
Well, yeah, that's what me and Mark and I were talking about that maybe a couple weeks ago, about how they took Lorne Michaels off and Eddie Murphy basically saved the show because it was doing so poorly without him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
And that's funny how things like, kind of change and, but yet they don't. Saturday Night Live has always kept to its same like format in a way, but, with making it still interesting. That's, original.
Yeah. Well, guys, anything else you want to wrap up with before we call it an episode? Jeremy?
Wow. We've been on quite a while. I didn't realize what time it is.
What time is it?
10:30 or 10:30 our time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not too. I mean, an hour and a half.
Okay. No, it was
I enjoyed
definitely
it.
a really great conversation. Thank you for being on,
I
Jeremy, of
enjoyed it.
course.
Maybe sometime in the
We
future,
definitely
I'll
want to
come
have you back. So if you're ever
Yeah.
bored on a Sunday, give us a call.
Yeah.
For sure. Hey, so you have some more guests coming on board here at some point?
Yeah, my friend, she's a model and a singer. She's gonna be on next week, I think. And then we have some SoundCloud guys, and I mean, really, like we said, anyone who wants to be on, just reach out to us.
Yeah.
We're up for any kind of conversation, you know?
Yeah,
Cool.
it's not.
Keep it
I mean,
interesting.
doesn't have to be any kind of artistic person either. Just that we have some other people that, you know, a friend of ours that has a shop here in town, and just any kind of person that wants to come on and have a discussion.
We got a kid we used to work with. He wants to come on and talk about Grant Cardone. I don't know if you know who that is. He's like the financial guy.
You know Grant Cardone, Jeremy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Tony
Why talk about
Robbins
Grant?
better, but that's just me.
Yeah, this
Tony
kid's
Robbins
like he's obsessed with Grant Cardone.
Yeah, he is. Tony Robbins and David Goggins are like my top two motivational guys.
I need to read David Goggins. I know a lot about Tony Robbins.
Yeah. I've read quite a few of his cliff notes and, you know, his articles.
Yeah.
Yeah, David has this book, Can't Hurt Me, which I have and I read. He's just very hardcore, which is why I like him. So
He's a military guy though.
Up in your life, definitely. He did a lot of ultra marathons. Ultraman, I think that's what it's called, or something.
Yeah.
He did that too. Ranger School. He just did a lot of stuff. So.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. This was cool. This is a good revitalization for a Sunday morning.
Yeah. Now you can go about your day. You've had a nice chat already.
Yeah.
Nothing but success the rest of the day.
That's right. Keep it on. Keep it on.
I'll send you the link when it's done. And it's posted and it's live, and you'll be out
and
there
you're
on
probably gonna watch it like 100 times because it's pretty awesome seeing yourself on there.
Now you're gonna be out there on the YouTube and the podcast universe forever.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Awesome, guys.
All right.
Go Rays, beat the Astros.
Hey, not the Astros, man.
I mean, I love the Astros. You know, I've always gone for them since I was a kid, but they're a little tainted to me recently. That came out the past couple of years, so it's like. Plus, Tampa just won the Stanley Cup, so I want them to win the World Series.
Yeah.
Take 2 prizes.
So I'm hoping they can make it past that. It's gonna be tough though to get past the Astros.
All right, we're out of here.
Cool.
All righty, thanks, Jeremy. We'll talk to you later, buddy.
Here.